Welcome back to another Deltora quest discussion. It is raining outside. If that gets too loud, I guess apologies, but maybe it's ASMR or something. I don't know. Anyway, today I'm talking about Shadowgate, which I am so excited to talk about because wow, I really, really like this one, which surprised me a lot actually. Cool. First off, I'll give a bit of a description of Shadowgate. So it was published in 2004, and here's a bit of a summary. So after they have some parties in Broome, Broome starts to flourish again. So there's crops and things are surviving because this is the difference after they killed the first sister. And now the land is coming back to life, which is yay. Our favourite trio, Leaf, Barter, and Jasmine, leave Broome and they travel on to find the Sister of the North, who is at Shadowgate. They find a group of campers called the Masked Ones who take them in. The Masked Ones, they all wear these different animal masks, some which are very realistic. The leader, who's called Bess, instantly takes a liking to Leaf, who reminds her of her lost son. She tries to replicate her son by giving Leaf his mask. So she gives Leaf the mask that her son Bede used to wear, and she also teaches him music because Bede used to sing really well. After they stop at Happy Vale, the trio try to leave the Masked Ones group, but not before Bess attempts to poison Barter and change Leaf to become a permanent member of their group. Cree flips the poison cups, and Bess accidentally poisons herself. It is also revealed that the inner circle of the Masked Ones actually have their masks attached magically to their faces and they cannot be removed, which is horrific. He realizes, so Leaf realizes that this would have happened to him with his mask at midnight too, but they managed to remove it just in time, though it leaves behind some damage to his face. The trio then run into our good pal Stephen, where they discover that the belt of Deltora was actually stolen by one of the members of the Masked Ones. They end up retrieving the belt and wake the Lapis Lazuli dragon, who then flies them to the Emerald Dragon territory. At Shadowgate, they find a castle and they also find Bess's son Bede, the one who looks like Leaf. A lady named Kirsten is pretending to be his servant, but actually it turns out Bede is her prisoner instead. Kirsten tries to trick them and she pushes Leaf into a pit of snakes, but the belt protects him because the ruby protects against snakes. Kirsten is killed by the snakes crawling all over her, and that's also horrific, and the Sister of the North is revealed. The Emerald Dragon flies down and destroys the Sister of the North with its emerald flame, and Bede and his girlfriend, Mariette, are freed. In a locket Kirsten had been wearing, they also discover there is a fragment of the map that will lead them to the Sister of the West, which is the next book, called The Isle of the Dead. So this book is so much fun. I loved every part of it. I am so happy. So I guess I don't even know where to start. There's so many things. Okay, so there are a lot of really good riddles in this book, which, as I've been talking about in the previous kind of talks, like the riddles is a huge part of Deltora Quest and I love them. And this book does some really good riddles, some interesting ones, and also like particularly, so there's an interesting riddle where they go into Happy Vale and there's all these letters on the notice board, and the letters are all like random made up names, and there's like multiple riddles within the letters. So like the first riddle, I don't know if you call it a riddle, but anyway, where the pins are on the notice board, the word that's underneath it, if you put them all together, it forms a sentence. And then the other kind of, I guess, riddle is that each of the fake names, when you rearrange the letters in the name, they become the masked one, which is really cool. And that one's additionally interesting because that part comes in the book a long time before we actually find out it was a riddle. So we kind of see that page and it looks really cool. And then ages later, Leaf's like, oh, hang on a sec, and like kind of puts it together, which is really interesting. It's funny because like I know I said before that I didn't remember anything about this book, but of course, as I was reading it, I was picking up and remembering things. So when that notice board section came up, I remembered there was a riddle in it, and I just could not for the life of me work out anything. Like I was like, I have no clue what this riddle is, and I tried so hard. But yeah, it's just very clever. I really like the idea of the pins showing the different words and putting those words together. I thought that was very cool. There was a bit of a stupid riddle. So let me grab my book. So in the beginning, Doom sends them a coded letter, which is like a clever. I guess it's fine. So the code is basically like he wrote the letter, and then between words he put uh, words that relate to birds, and he had like this cage and the birds are flying out, and the point is to free the birds. So you've got to like cross out all the words that are related to birds, so like stuff like flock and singing, and sparrow. So like you cross those words out, and the words between that, if you read it backwards, will show the actual the actual content of the letter. But the content of the letter, so the actual letter, so once you cross out all the riddled words, it says, "Good fortune, I will deal with things here, nothing more known as yet. There are whispers, you are to be stopped. Trust only old friends, travel hidden." And I just feel like it's the stupidest. Like, he literally gave them nothing in that. It's like, also, what's the point of coding it? Because there's nothing revealed. I'm like, Doom, you're not actually saying anything. Like, if you were, oh, like this person, or don't go here, like, yeah, okay, code it. But he's like not even saying anything that's worth coding. I don't know. Anyway, that's my opinion. I think it just made me laugh because Doom is such an idiot and I love him so much. I'm still laughing at the fact that we're calling him Doom and we know his name's Jared. But we're on to Deltora 3 and everyone, including the King of Deltora and including his own daughter, are calling him Doom and not his official name. Anyway, it's great. The other riddle I really liked was, so they use music and songs a lot in this book, which is another thing I really am into. But anyway, I'll get to that. So Bede, when they get to the castle and Bede's in the castle, so this is the one that looks like Leaf and the one that someone thinks is, Bess thinks is her son. Oh, sorry, he is Bess's son. My bad, what am I saying? Anyway, Bede is a singer. So when they get to the castle, he's singing a song and he's writing his music. And the song that he sings has a hidden code in it. So at the end of each sentence, you take that final word and you read it backwards again. No, you read it forwards. My bad, I'm just finding it now. But yeah, so if you take the end of each sentence, it turns out the code is, "Kristen is evil, I am her prisoner, help me." And I like that one a lot. I thought that was very clever, and it's kind of funny because the only way they work out the code is Leaf's just hating on his lyric writing. He's just like, this guy sucks, like, why doesn't he rhyme his words? He's supposed to be good. And then he's like, Kirsten doesn't even rhyme with "is evil I am." Wait a second. It's very funny. Yeah, so I really liked that riddle. The masked one, oh my gosh. Okay. So as a creepy figure, the masked one is very good. I loved it so much. So the masked one, so it's a bit confusing. There's two separate things. There's the masked one and there's masked ones, plural. So the masked one is like this kind of weird creature that keeps appearing. They have a mask, they wear a hooded cloak, they have like these white pale fingers that kind of like expand and grow longer, and they like choke people and like kill people, and it's really horrific. Like, they're like a phantom basically. They're kind of like a ghost from a horror story, if I'm honest, just appearing and killing people. And so the masked one turns up multiple times in the book right from the beginning and kills like a bunch of people randomly. Turns out in the end that the masked one was sent by Kirsten, who was using it to try and kill the trio but kept failing because she sucks. But yeah, the masked one as a concept's really creepy, and every time they see him, it's just, yeah, it's literally like a ghost story, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really creepy, kind of got that horror vibe, and was really interesting. And then we've got the masked ones, which is the group of people who wear the animal masks, and they're also absolutely terrifying. I really, really like that whole part of the book a lot. It reminds me, actually, I can't remember which book. Actually, yes, so it reminds me of the Noradzi. No, that's the thing they say. NORAD's people. Anyway, that's the people in the City of the Rats, because it's kind of like got this cult vibe as well. Like, they only wear their masks all the time. They wear them when they're eating. They're, and you're like, it's quite creepy because like they're all wearing masks, like you can't see their actual faces, and they've got like these weird customs and things. And And yeah, it's very similar. They take on orphans and stuff, and you can tell like they're just trying to, increase their cult numbers. So that's really creepy. And then you've got Bess, who, adding on to the creepiness factor, who's the leader of the masked ones, also takes on Leaf as kind of her replacement son, because he looks like her son Bede, and tries to basically, you know, raise him and help him become her son, which is terrifying. So yeah, I found them really creepy. Their masks are really creepy. The fact that they're like a cult's very creepy, and yeah, all of their little customs and things are just it's really good, because the beginning of that whole section, like they're kind of like drawn in, and it's like, well, there's nothing like objectively wrong with them, but like you kind of get this really underlying vibe of, there's something wrong here. And I think that's one thing that Deltora Quest does really well. She's really good at writing that kind of undercurrent of creepiness, even before you know why something's creepy. Again, the NORAD's people, that was exactly the same. The City of the Rats had the same current. She's very good with that. And again, just like City of Rats, I really appreciated this book for that section, because I think she writes those little cultures very well. So that was really interesting. And then adding on to that, the fact that, we find out why it's so creepy. It is literally a cult, and they have like the mask. So when they turn, I think, 18 or reach adulthood, maybe it's just the thing. Anyway, so they have like special masks that they've made. So everyone has masks, but then like in, I think, the inner circle, or maybe when you hit a certain age, I can't remember the exact, I didn't write that down, but yeah, once you hit a certain age, or you are brought into the inner circle, you get given a really, really, really realistic mask, and then you put that on, and that's your mask forever. And quite literally forever, because it will attach to your face and become your face. So when Bess dies, they try to rip the mask off her, and they realize that they're ripping her skin off, which is so terrifying. It's so awful. And yeah, they're like pulling the mask off and pulling her skin off, and she's like screaming. Ugh. Anyway, really bad. And then Leaf realizes that that's going to happen to him, because Bess has given him the mask that was meant for the adulthood of her son. And I don't know, I think there's like some sort of magic, or she's making it out of some special type of plant. So I don't think it was explained properly, unless I skimmed that part. Anyway, it's just awful. So yeah, they get it off Leaf's face, but then it was attaching to Leaf's face, so it does leave behind a fair bit of damage. Poor Leaf. Yeah, so that whole thing is a lot. I also really like the use of music in this book, so I'll get into that now. Bess, like I said, Bess believes Leaf's very similar to her son, so she wants Leaf to be able to sing, because her son was a very good singer, who's like a songbird. I think that was his thing. Leaf can't sing, which is great. So she tries to teach him music. So she teaches him the different notes in music. She gives him like a little chime thing to practice the notes on. Okay, Leaf does no practice at all. It's like he gets that and then forgets about it. But then later in the book, he like suddenly is very good. Well, I mean, not very good. It wasn't very hard what he was asked, but I'm still like amazed that he could read music. I was like, okay, well, he's picked it up very fast. I was impressed as someone who can read music. Maybe I'm just slow. Anyway, so he uses music in that way, and it's nice because like it's written into the book. So like they actually write all the notes into the book, and then later on, so Leaf gets a song stuck in his head, and he's like singing it, and then he writes the song out, which this is why I find wild, from his singing. I'm like, Leaf, how on earth can you pick up, like, I can't even do that. Anyway, he's great. He's apparently a musical genius. He writes down the notes that he's been singing, and then names the notes, and realize the notes spell bead. So Bede are the notes that he's singing, and that's the son. So he's like, whoa, what's this? So yeah, I really like that kind of, I guess, the way that music's interwoven into story. It's nice because it picks up from the first one in a way, because one of the things about the sisters is that they sing, and their songs are evil, and their songs of evil are what's destroying the land, basically. So to bring music in this way as well is kind of like nice. It adds on to that concept of music being really important. And then, of course, in the end, there is the Song of the Sister of the North. And yeah, so that's also, continuing that whole music idea. That's a nice little theme that runs through it. I thought that was really good. Laughing Jack was one of the new characters introduced in this book, which I kind of liked him. He's like a swindler. He's more like a debt collector, actually. He loans out his money and then comes and basically takes people's homes because he on the form that he gets them all to sign, like nobody can read, and he like asks like 20% back or whatever. Well, did I say 20% back? Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. He asked for I don't do money. Anyway, he asked for a lot more back. And basically swindles people out of their money. So he's horrific as well in his own way. But I kind of liked the concept. It's like this is a bit realistic in its own way. It's not magic. It's just a guy being a dick. And yeah, and so they go and find him because he has, I mean, not to get too into the parts that don't need to be talked about, but basically the person who took the belt went to him, and now he has the belt, and the person who had the belt. So yeah, they go to him, and I don't know, I found his whole thing interesting. I find these kind of evil but not quite evil characters really interesting in Deltora Quest. It's also like, I mean, I wouldn't really call him having grey morality. He's pretty clearly not a good person, but he's not evil in the way that he's not like a creature of the Shadow Lord. He's not some kind of weird monster. He's just a person who's doing bad things. And it reminds me a little bit of the guy, I think it's Tom, way back in like book 2 or book 3, from Deltora 1, who's like definitely, I don't know if you call him a bad guy, but he's like kind of morally grey, and he does bad things as well, and he's also just a person. And I like that inclusion, that people can be bad as well as, evil creatures and all that. So yeah, that's just my thing. The dragons are interesting in this book. I noticed, and I don't know if this is for the dragons in the previous book, but in this book, they don't have genders, I'm pretty sure. No, I'm just double checking. At least the Lapis Lazuli dragon doesn't have a gender. And I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I don't think so, because the dragons are just described as it and the dragon, basically. Yeah. I like that. I thought that was great. They're just big creatures, and who cares? And the Lapis Lazuli dragon's my favourite. I love them so much. They're like, I don't know why. They only had like 2 pages of lines, but it was so funny because it's kind of like, in my opinion anyway, in my interpretation, it seemed a bit snarky. Like, there was one part they were saying, oh, cool, like, it's like, oh, I want to go eat things, and Leif's like, great, but please don't eat people. And then the Lapis Lazuli dragon's like, I would never dine on warm blood, ugh. I just like love it. I'm like, this dragon, it's got a little personality, and it's really good, because I didn't feel that from the other dragons as much. And so anyway, the Lapis Lazuli dragon's my favorite dragon so far, because it's got a bit of snark. The whole twist at the end was very good. So when they go to the castle, where at Shadowgate, Kirsten's like this, meek kind of servant-like figure who brings them in, and they're like, oh my gosh, she's like a servant to, or like a prisoner to Bede, because Bede's there sitting playing his music, and she's like acting like, oh yes, master, and bowing and all of this. And it turns out Bede is actually the prisoner and Kirsten's the one controlling him. And I love that twist. I did remember it because I could actually interpret his song before Leif got to it. But so this, for me, like, I'm going to compare this to Rolf from the book before. So Rolf was the same idea, right? So Rolf was this meek, kind of annoying, oh god, don't get me started, but anyway, he's this meek creature who they're like, oh, we have to protect him, he's like pathetic, he doesn't do anything, and turns out he's actually evil, which I don't think I remembered from the book, but the twist didn't get me that much because I didn't really have much, like I hated him basically. But in this one, I think I had more empathy for the idea of what Kirsten was going for, like because she was supposed to be this kind of tragic, figure who was in love with Bede, and she'd do anything for him, and now he's using that love to control her. And I was like, I kind of empathized with that, or understood that more anyway than with Rolf. So I was like, yeah. So when that twist hit, even though I kind of saw it coming, I felt like it was pulled off a lot better than Rolf's twist personally. So I really, really, really like that twist. Yeah, that was really good. And then the snakes, of course, I love snakes. So there's a lot of snakes in this book, which is great. But then, so when Kirsten dies, I think she falls over a little bit. Basically, the snakes start dragging her down into the pit, and pulling on her hair and twisting over. And they basically use her like a ladder to get out of the pit that they're all trapped in. And so they're all just climbing and crawling over her body. And as they're doing it, they're biting her. So Leaf's watching this, and he's like, oh, every time they bite her, a little bit more of poison goes in her, so she's going to die a slow, agonizing death. And I'm like, this is, that's so awful. I don't like Kirsten, but my God, that's torture. Ugh. Anyway, it was good though. This is what I like about Deltora Quest. It definitely doesn't shy away from horrific ideas. That's, as a concept, that's really terrifying. Anyways, interesting kids book. Yeah, and then also, I laughed about this before and I'll laugh about it again, but, they get to the end of the book and lo and behold, the next piece of the map that they need happens to be in the locket that Kirsten has. I just feel like it doesn't make much sense where they put these pieces of the maps, but anyway, doesn't matter. It's fantasy. They can do whatever they want. So overall, I loved this book. I really, really loved it. I loved every little part of it because right from the beginning, we start with Broom. Oh, totally forgot to mention, but Lyndall, who's the one from Broom, is still my absolute favorite. And the first description of her is in a leather jacket and she's got shaved head. And I'm like, this lady is my wife. Anyway, I'm completely obsessed with Lyndall, and I was really excited first because I thought she was going to go along with him for the rest of the journey, but then she didn't, so I'm sad. Anyway, enough of talk about Lyndall. So yeah, I love Lyndall. I love the Broom stuff. And then we go straight into the Masked One stuff, which I also love. And then we go straight into Stephen's section and the section with Laughing Jack, which I also really found interesting. Then we've got Lapis Lazuli Dragon, which is great. And then we go straight to the castle where Kirsten and Bede is, and that whole part's great too. So it's just, for me, this book is hit. I really liked everything because some of the other previous books, especially most of the recent ones, have kind of been oh, well, I really like this section, but the rest of it I don't love as much. But this book, I really enjoyed a lot of it, and I have a feeling once I get to the final book, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rank all Deltora Quest, and I think this one's going to be fairly high up. So I'm really excited about it, and it's very, very good. So now I'm more hyped for the rest of this series, actually. So yeah, we got the Isle of the Dead, I think, next. Yeah, I'm going to say I don't remember anything. But Shadowgate proved me wrong. I did remember something, so we'll see. But yeah, oh, actually, there's one more funny thing in this book. So right at the end of this book, I'm pretty sure I entered this competition. They have a competition for Deltora Quest. It says if you want to be a Deltora legend, you've got to crack this code and enter the competition, and then you get featured in the back of the final book. I'm so sad that I didn't win this. Anyway, the code's super easy. So I did crack it myself, of course, and so tempted to send off my entry since the entry address is still on here, but unfortunately it closed about 15 years ago, so it's not going to happen. Anyway, so yeah, that was Shadowgate. A really, really good book. Loved it. Really loved it. And now I'm really keen for the next one. So I will talk more about Deltora Quest soon. Bye.